Time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, he's been a state representative for 4 years, and he says he wants to continue on, and we're going to talk to him today. His name is Jerry Mallory from the 119th Pennsylvania Legislative District. Remember, folks, I always tell you, know the particular candidate, all right? Know who the candidate is, know what they've done, because we're in a mess in this country because people say vote straight them, straight ours, etc. So we have these candidates coming on, they pay for the show, they sponsor the show, but it's a great opportunity for you to really understand who they are. And I applaud anyone today who is running. I know sometimes the press is a little bit difficult, hard on them, but however, Jerry's been there for 4 years in the state capital as a state representative, and he is, they redistrict something. So Jerry Mullery, first of all, thanks for coming on the show.
Sam, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
First meeting, I saw your chief of staff, and I mean, he's a heck of a guy, I'll tell you.
Great guy, does great things for the people of the 119th.
And he's a people person. I like that.
Yes, he is.
Jerry, tell me about, I mean, people who know of you in your district. I know that we've Hazel Township now, and half of Hazel Township, West Hazelton. It's a little crazy thing what they did with redistricting. But who is Jerry Mallory?
I'm just a typical gentleman from northeastern Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in Plymouth Township, part of a blue-collar family. My mother worked 27 years in a pencil factory at Eberhard Faber in Mountaintop. My father made shoes for over 20 years at Alta Products, and I can distinctly remember being 11, 12 years old when both of their factories closed within 6 months of one another. So I've experienced hard times that many Pennsylvanians did in the late 70s, early 80s, but we persevered. I graduated from Nanticoke High School, went on to King's College, received my bachelor's degree. I was the first member of my family to go to college and get a college degree. After that, went on to Duquesne University out in Pittsburgh and obtained my law degree. Always knew that I would come back to NEPA. This is my home. These are my roots. I married my high school sweetheart. We've been together since we're 16 years old, and we made Newport Township our homestead. And we've lived there since, early 2000s, where we are raising 4 beautiful children. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons.
You have 4 children.
4 kids.
God bless you.
2 daughters, 14 and 12, 2 sons, 8 and 6. And they, like me, love the area. And, that's me. I'm as straightforward and down to earth as you can get.
Well, Jerry, you have a lot at stake. You have 4 children. You see what the country's involved, the state's involved. I always like to find out why. And like I said, thank God we have people. We do need politicians. I think we need good politicians, which makes for good government. So that's a necessary thing that we have to have. But why did Jerry Mullery decide to run for state representative?
I was watching, Sam, what was going on with our state throughout my life living here, and I didn't like the direction that we were headed in. I was seeing a state where...
you're talking 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Okay.
This goes back even 6, 8 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
But I was watching our best and brightest leaving. A lot of my friends that I went to high school with, college with, who were successful entrepreneurs, successful professionals, were leaving because there simply weren't opportunities here. So I saw what was happening to my generation. I also saw what was happening to my parents' generation. These were people who worked hard their entire lives for the American dream, to have their family homestead where they could retire, enjoy their golden years, and instead they were being forced with potentially going back, getting another job, re-entering the workforce to pay their property taxes. And on top of that, maybe the thing that really drove me more than anything was, what type of legacy were we leaving for my kids and their generation? Were we going to have a place where they were going to be able to afford to live, afford to buy a home and pay the property taxes? Were we going to have a place where there were going to be jobs for them that they can sustain their families with? And the more I followed local and state and federal government, I thought, I want to get involved. I think I can help. I care about people. I care about northeastern PA. I thought I had some good ideas, and I thought I had the most important characteristic of what I look for in a politician, and that is, is he empathetic? Does he care about our plight? So when my good friend John Yadichak, who I grew up with, we've been friends since we were 5 years old, decided he was going to move on and run for the state senate, I went and spoke with him and said, John, I think I can do this, and I think this is something that I could do to help the people of our region. He encouraged me, and here we are 4 years later. I had 2 successful elections.
Okay, so now, that sounds great. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now Jerry Mullery has all these things that he wants to do. Okay, and I couldn't agree with you more with young people, with their education future, especially seniors. It breaks my heart, and I'm sure it breaks your heart, to see seniors who have worked all their lives, want to enjoy their golden years and are being just bombarded with fuel prices, you know, you name it, and now they have to get a job. It should be years that they should enjoy. With that being said, what did you do?
Well, we did a couple things that I could talk to you about that immediately address the issue that you brought up. Number one is, from day one, I have been a staunch supporter and a staunch advocate for the Property Tax Independent Act, which is commonly referred to as House Bill 76 or Senate Bill 76. And what that bill would do is to eliminate school property taxes and replace them with an earned income tax increase and a sales tax increase. Now, when we first got behind that bill 4 years ago, we were told that's a lost effort. That'll never see the light of day on the House floor. You can continue to fight for it all you want. You can be as vocal as you could be for as long as you want. That is something that will never see the light of day in Harrisburg. Well, here we are 3 years later, and it did. We got it to a vote on the House floor in the form of an amendment, and we had serious debate on the issue, and unfortunately we lost. But we've taken a very important step toward that ultimate goal of helping people stay in their homes. And I think that as we progress and we get more like-minded people in public office, we're going to get that bill to the finish line.
You know, Jerry, it's interesting you say that, because, you know, I always say that we should hold people accountable. Because if Jerry Mallory tells me, you are a great guy, and especially with 4 children, okay, and understanding, you know, and your parents. So you've seen that, and God knows how many people you've talked to in the last 4 years and have poured out their hearts to you, okay. And you go to the State House and you bring these ideas there, so you certainly need support. When you, I was talking about property tax in the Independent Acts. Okay. Incidentally, if you just tune in, folks, I'm talking to Representative Jerry Mullery of the 119th District. If you understand, they've done a change here in our area, West Hazelton, half of Hazel Township. He covers Nanticoke and Mountaintop, etc. And his website is, what is your website? I'm sorry.
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is going on the PA House website. So you can go to www.pahouse.net/Mullery.
Okay, and learn, because I always tell people, get to know the candidates. All right. So we talked about property tax, and we talked about reform, and I've been listening to politicians telling me that since God knows when, since 1994 when I started my shows. How do you do it?
How we do it is we need the people, and that's what we have behind us right now, and they are stronger and more vocal than ever. Several times a year, busloads come to the Capitol, and when they come, they schedule as many meetings as they can with their state representatives and their state senators. I tell them in advance, don't come to me. Don't waste your time coming to my office. You got my support. You have my vote. You need to focus on these people, and I'll give them lists. And the louder you are, and the more vocal you are, and the more people that you bring, at some point, even the most staunch opponents to this bill will have to get on board, or they won't find themselves being reelected to Harrisburg. And we have some great groups right here in northeastern Pennsylvania that support this bill, that are very vocal, that are constantly reaching out and contacting their state government leaders, and virtually all of the Northeast delegation is on board. We're not all on board, but virtually all of the elected officials in NEPA are on board, and we continue to be a loud voice for this type of reform.
There are areas of concern that people have, particularly seniors, have concern of welfare fraud, the access card fraud. Not saying we don't want to help people, and I think sometimes people get the wrong impression saying, well, we don't know. I'm all for helping people. I help the needy, not the greedy, okay?
Right.
And what has been done, what have you done to avoid this welfare fraud? Because here's your parents. Are they still living, may I ask?
They're both passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But there are seniors out there, okay, who worked all their lives, and they're in the grocery stores, and they're trying to survive, okay, and sometimes they don't get what they want to get, but they're surviving. Then in front of them, there's a person who has their carts loaded with stuff, and I know you know the story.
Yep.
And you see them, now nothing, again, don't misread what I'm saying, Jerry. I think we should help people in need. This is very frustrating, very frustrating. We see abuse. What are you doing about it?
I agree, and not only have I seen it, I've received the telephone calls from constituents who are upset about what they have seen. And what I have done is this: I have been a co-sponsor to multiple pieces of legislation to tighten the straps on that type of fraud and abuse. I have voted in favor on the House floor and in committee for welfare fraud prevention bills. Representative Tara Tuhill from right here in Hazleton has been a partner with me in drafting and promoting and passing legislation to prohibit these types of actions. We both would like to see it go a step further. I'm looking at items such as photographic ID on the access cards to make certain that the person using it is the person who it was issued to. There are other measures in place like that to prevent the sale and distribution of cards. And I like to think that I've been a leader in that realm. The other thing is, I agree with you. The people of northeastern Pennsylvania in particular care about this issue, and they care about their fellow citizens. No one that I talk to is opposed to helping people who need it. All they are opposed to is the system being abused or the system being used in a fraudulent manner. So any steps that we can take to prevent that, I'm on board with. I am constantly opening my office for ideas, but I'm on the health committee, so a lot of the provisions of the welfare fraud that I deal with are health insurance fraud and things of that nature. But I have consistently voted for fraud prevention measures as it pertains to the welfare code.
I'm glad to hear you say you're bipartisan. In some areas, you're not going in or voting strictly party, okay? And I know there's some areas, I've been around a while, and where you have to, the party gets together and you have your caucuses, et cetera, and that's okay. But when it comes to individual bills, I think Jerry Mullery looks at them individually as to what's good for the people other than what's good for a party.
Absolutely, and I don't like any type of moniker on me, like a blue dog or a conservative or a liberal.
Good for you.
And what I have found, and this is my reputation in Harrisburg, is that I do view each bill individually. I don't care if it was sponsored by a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care if it was comes out of a committee that is chaired by a particular person who has a specific ideology. I look at each bill individually, assess it, determine whether or not I think it's good for the people of northeastern Pennsylvania, and specifically the 119th legislative district, and if it is, I support it. If it's not, I oppose it.
You got a difficult job, okay? And here again, no matter who the person is, I admire anyone who's in politics today. I know we want to hold you accountable, and I think you want to be held accountable.
I do.
Okay. Your outreach, when you're going from the different areas, okay? And like, for example, there are different, some concerns are always the same. Property tax for seniors and education, okay, is another factor there, okay? Without playing politics, okay, and without blaming anyone for anyone, because I could say, Rendell left us with a $4.2 billion, and then I could say that, but I'm not concerned about that. Jerry Mullery, as a state representative, okay, you got 4 children. Boy, you have a vested interest here, my friend, okay? What are you doing in terms of generating additional income for our education, and is that being monitored as well?
It is. Now, like you said, I have a vested interest. I've seen what has happened over the past 4 years in my districts, the districts that I represent, Greater Nanticoke area, Hanover area, Crestwood, the Wilkes-Barre area, and the Wyoming Valley West School District. I've seen schools that had record funding for education, had seen their test scores go through the roof, have had multiple opportunities for their kids to participate in extracurricular activities, and I've seen that all go away. I've seen a dramatic reduction in state funding. Now, I won't play politics. There are some out there that say it was Governor Corbett that did it. There are others that say it was federal cuts that did it. I don't care. I'm looking for a solution now. The solution is right under our feet, Sam. It's the Marcellus money. And I strongly support an extraction tax on that. My good friend, the Senator Johnny Deachok, proposed a bill recently that could generate $650 million per year in an extraction tax revenue, which could be put right into our school system. Our kids are our future. There is no dollar spent in Harrisburg that has a greater return on investment than the money we invest into our children's education. And we are at a crossroads right now. We can't be looking at, are the kids from Hazleton more successful than the kids from Crestwood, or are they more successful than the kids from Hanover? We need to be looking at things on a much larger scale. Are the children that we're educating in Pennsylvania competitive with the kids from New York, New Jersey, Ohio, and our surrounding states? And more importantly, everything now is on an international level. Are the children that we are educating in Pennsylvania going to be competitive with kids from other countries? And if they're not, we're failing them. And it has a dramatic effect on our state as a whole. If we do not have a quality education system and we are not producing children that are ready to enter a technologically advanced workforce, then we're not going to be able to draw jobs here, because nobody's going to want to move their business here, whether it be manufacturing or otherwise, to an area where they can't educate the kids of the people that they employ. And if we're not graduating kids who are ready for what they have to deal with in today's society, then there's no workforce here for the future. That's why I strongly support a Marcellus extraction tax. I think it needs to be a little bit higher than the senator had proposed, so that we can generate roughly $800 million annually from it, and we can reinvest that money right back into our schools, lessen the burden on our property tax payers, and begin to educate our kids so they are global competitors.
Folks, I'm talking to Jerry Mullery. He is a state representative of the 119th Pennsylvania Legislative District, and he's looking for a re-election. Of course, for you in West Hazelton, Hazel Township, and different areas, they redistrict the state of Pennsylvania. You're all for accountability.
Correct.
Okay. Sometimes, in any business, Jerry, you have people who work for you have to be accountable, okay, as to what they do, all right? And I think people want to be accountable. Mm-hmm. Our educational system, okay, there are times where you have people saying, now wait a minute, we are giving a certain district a lot of money, but their scores are down. Are the teachers accountable? And I was a school teacher, and you couldn't pay me enough to be a school teacher today, because they are really worked, okay? Mm-hmm. However, even though they're worked, I'm sure they want to be accountable, all right? So in our educational system, we have to look at, before we give more money, okay, are we getting the results from what we're giving them? Okay, have you looked into that?
Sure. Representative Brian Ament, a Republican friend of mine from the Lancaster delegation, recently put forth a bill that I think addresses the issue that you're asking me about, and that is teacher accountability. And what portion of a child's testing ability or their ultimate performance is related directly to the teacher. And certainly, I believe that teachers should be held accountable for the success and or failure of their students, but it is not at all the sole provision that goes into how well a student does. I mean, we have children who come from low-income families who don't have the support at home. We have children who come from one or no parent households that don't have the support when they go home. We have kids who come to school hungry, and these are issues that all affect their performance in school. And these are all things that need to be taken into account when we decide, you know, is this teacher or is this school district performing to its utmost capability?
Excellent point. Excellent.
You know, so it's hard to come up with a formula to say, well, teacher accountability should be 40% of whether or not we deem this school or this student to be succeeding. So there are
a lot of factors.
Too many.
Yeah, and
too many to come up
that's
with.
Very interesting.
With
that's
a
the first time
formula.
that's very interesting. Going to you mentioned about the Marcellus Shale. Okay, are you familiar with liquefaction plant? John Rich, when he wanted to take coal and make it into fuel. Okay, we've been through this song and dance. I see no reason in the country today why we should be paying the kind of energy price for oil and gas when we have all of this energy, okay? How do you feel about coal energy?
I'm a strong advocate of coal energy. My problem with any energy source is, are we handling it and are we procuring it in a responsible manner? I grew up in Plymouth Township, as we discussed earlier. I used to play on the Colm banks when I was a little boy. I have the black speckles in my knee as proof that's where I did, because what happened at the time was the coal companies came in, they pillaged the land, and they left without any remediation to clean it up. And now we have wonderful organizations like Earth Conservancy going in there and remediating these properties. We need to make certain that the natural gas companies and the coal companies that seek to expand their business in the Commonwealth are prepared to do that as well.
Well, you know that they couldn't even do anything today. Right. Okay, and if you look at what, and I'm not promoting, when you look at John Rich, okay, and what he did with his the land that they have fisheries, they have deer running around. I mean, they've they just made the land beautiful, okay? So, but there's a lot of rules and regulations.
Sure.
I totally agree with you, okay?
And coal is facing a very tenuous time right now. I just saw reported last week in the news that the coal generation plant in Sunbury was forced to close due to environmental regulations.
Now, there's another thing, Jerry. Sometimes these regulations, they drive people crazy.
Sometimes regulations can be...
You get a lot of that from
yes,
your constituents.
they can choke the life out of bringing potential business.
Sometimes you're fighting your own element, though.
Absolutely. And that's why it's very important that when we talk about making Pennsylvania a place to promote the acquisition of family-sustaining jobs, regulation has to play a role in that. A lot of times my colleagues look simply at tax implications. Well, our corporate net income tax is too high, which it is. Our property taxes are too high, which they are. Our infrastructure is failing, which it is, and we've attempted to address that with the most recent gas tax that was implanted. And that is a lot of times the only way legislators look at things. On the other end, though, while those three things would prevent a business from moving here or constructing here and employing hundreds, if not thousands of Pennsylvania, we also have to look at our regulations. If all of those three things were taken care of, if we fixed our infrastructure, if we eliminated our property taxes, and we lowered our corporate net income tax, if the regulations here are still strangling business, they're not going to come. So one hand has to work with the other, and we need to make Pennsylvania a better place for businesses to look to come and expand.
So why should I vote for Jerry Mullery for state representative if you're in my district? Why should I put you back in there? You've been there for 4 years. You've told me what you've done. So why do I put Jerry Mullery back?
Let's talk about the district first, because that has been a major change.
Yeah, it has.
There are 203 of us in the state house. There were about 3 state reps whose districts actually moved from one part of the state to the other due to population switches. If you take those 3 out, I think my district was one of the districts that was most affected. I went from having a very small district down in the Valley cities, Nanticoke, Plymouth, Larksville, Edwardsville, and the Mountaintop region, and have now been expanded into southern Luzerne County. You've mentioned Hazel Township, West Hazelton, but I also have Foster, Denison, Freeland, Whitehaven, Jetto. Oh, I have them all. I pretty much have all of southern Luzerne County, with the exception of Hazelton City proper and 1 ward in West Hazelton, or in 1 ward in Hazel Township. I'm sorry, I have all of West Hazelton. So now, why would those people who don't know me, and I'm trying to get out, Sam. We've set up outreach programs in Freeland, in Whitehaven, in Hazel Township, and we're meeting with the people on a weekly basis at no charge. I mean, no taxpayer
Just to get to know you.
Absolutely. And we go out, and either I'm out there with my staff or my staff is out there if I'm at another location, and we're getting to meet people, and we're providing valuable state services to these people. So why should they vote for me? Well, I'll give you a couple reasons. Number one, we talked about my education. I don't think that matters at all, Sam. I don't think you need to have a college degree or a law degree to be a successful state representative or a successful elected official. I think the number one thing that you need to have is compassion and empathy for the people you represent, and I do. I care as much about the kid going to kindergarten as I do about the 90-year-old who's worried about paying their property tax and is calling me about, Jerry, what can I do? How can I get through this tough time? And I take their concerns and their issues with me to Harrisburg, and I present them on the House floor to my colleagues and say, this is what's happening in NEPA, and this is why we need to change these, and this is why you need to get on board with me and help me help my people. So I care. Number two, Sam, I've developed a very good reputation in Harrisburg as being a leader on issues. I've developed bipartisan relationships down there, and when I begin to move legislation, again, it's like we talked about earlier, it's not something where I get 20 or 30 Democrats to jump on board. My legislation that I've introduced is sponsored on a bipartisan level across the board, and I like to think that I'm helping to move Pennsylvania forward.
First of all, I want to say this. My grandfather never went to school, okay, but he had a doctor's degree in common sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and you talk about the district you're from, you couldn't find better people, okay, hardworking people, God-fearing people, that are just good people that are trying to survive, okay, and they're trying to survive. And so they look for anyone who's in office saying, please, don't mislead us. Now, the interesting thing is, you mentioned about Tara. Tara Toohill is a regular guest on the show because she represents the industry. And what I like to do is bring them back to say, okay, what did you do? Because you may say, I want to do this and this and this, and you do that, but you don't get the support.
Right.
Well, I said I was going to do it. I didn't get the support. Let the people know that I did this, okay? Like when Marletta comes on with House. And I'm not siding with anyone. The point is that they do present the things that the people want, but they don't get passed.
Right.
Okay, so there's an opportunity if you should win, just to do a report, so they know that Jerry Mullery said, "I'm doing this," and he did do it.
Right. I would welcome the opportunity to come back, and I think one of the problems that folks like Tara and I have, and everybody has it that represents a district in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is this is an extremely diverse state. We have 203 legislative districts, and what is very important in northeastern Pennsylvania, property taxes, isn't even on the radar in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
And the way the folks in the Lancaster delegation think about gambling and liquor law is 100 degrees opposite of where the people in northeastern or northwestern PA are.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult.
How come you have black hair? You should have gray hair.
That's brown. It just looks black under all these lights.
Jeez. You're absolutely right, because you got Philadelphia delegate. I mean, you really have to be when I say politician, you really have to be able to work with people to get them to understand, because you're 100% right.
And your word is your bond down there.
Yeah.
And what I've tried to do for the past 4 years is treat Harrisburg the same way I treat the people in my personal life, and that is with honesty, integrity. And when I say something, I stand behind it. And if for any reason I have to change my original thought process, which I've had to do in Harrisburg, just like I've had to do in my personal life, I go out, I grab them, I meet them in their office, say, listen, I've had to switch my position on this, and here's why. I wanted to tell you first so that you don't hear it through any other outlet.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. How will you keep your constituents informed, and how will you want to get input? Because Hazel Township people may have a problem, Freely may.
Yeah.
How do you keep that open line of communication?
Well, if reelected, let's start with our district office. We will maintain a district office in the Nanticoke city. We will also have to put a district office here in southern Luzerne County, which we will staff. In addition to those 2 district offices, we have outreach. We are in the communities, different communities on different days each week. You can go to my website to find out where we are so that we can help you. We also do email blasts. We do mailers. I do robocalls. I believe in Twitter and Facebook. All the modern technological advances that I can utilize to get our message out, to offer help to the people that we represent, I utilize. So I'm not hard to find at all, Sam.
Yeah, well, we'll track you down.
All right.
So Jerry Mullery, you got about a minute left, okay, and that's your camera right there, camera 4. I want you to tell these people, my viewers, why they should vote for Jerry Mullery for the 119th Pennsylvania Legislative District.
Well, ladies and gentlemen of the 119th Legislative District, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch Sam's show and to listen to what it is I have to say about the future of Pennsylvania. For those in the new part of the district who may not know me as well as those in the old part of the district, I would ask you to search the media outlets, go to my website to see what it is that I stand for. And I stand for things that I think are most important to the people of northeastern Pennsylvania. The creation of family-sustaining jobs, a good education for our children, safe neighborhoods, so the provision of police and fire resources so that we are comfortable where we live. Clean water. I believe in the development of the Marcellus industry, but I think that it's something that we have to do responsibly. And finally, I get a lot of inquiries about recreation in PA, specifically hunting and fishing. I am a strong advocate of our Second Amendment rights. Those are 5 things that I took with me to Harrisburg in the beginning. I continue to rely upon those 5 issues in every decision I make. And if those are things that you agree with, I ask for your vote on May 20th. And Sam, again, I want to thank you for inviting me on your show.
A pleasure. Nice meeting you, folks. And you can watch this show 24/7. We could, if he has a website, we could link it. But you could watch this show. So if you see the show and you want to know more about Jerry Mullery, just go to our website, ssptv.com, Sam Lesante Mullery, and you'll be able to see the show. Become informed. I don't care who the person is, folks. Don't let someone tell you how to vote. Make sure you know who the person is. Learn about them. Make sure you vote your conscience. Don't worry about them being Democrats or Republicans. Vote for people. Folks, we're in a mess today because people are telling you how to vote. Vote for the person who's qualified. Jerry, good luck.
Thank you.
As I wish all the candidates good luck.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next time on the Sam Lesante Show.